first several weeks of this course, we focused on how students learn, and we've seen examples of environments that support different kinds of learning. This week, we're going to focus on assessment, which is how we understand what learners are understanding. In this case, the we might refer to teachers, researchers, or even the students themselves. We use assessment for many different reasons, and even though people assume that assessments are multiple choice tests, they come in a lot of forms and serve a lot of different purposes. In order to help students progress, and in order to improve our learning designs, we need some way to understand what students are learning. So, we're going to take a look at different ways people are assessing student learning in technology-based environments. We'll hear from a number of experts, people currently working on this problem, about the traditional methods of assessment and what kind of issues they see with them. Then, we'll take a look at two case studies, intelligent tutoring systems and choice-based assessments, to see some examples of new methods of assessment that are being developed. We'll talk about how technology can help solve some of our problems with assessment, such as the need to assess soft skills and the ability to collect large amounts of data. And finally, we'll look at the future of the assessment field from the perspective of researchers, educational testing professionals, and educational publishers. That will help frame some of the uses and challenges of assessment, and it will prepare you to design your own assessments for your pitch product. How do you know what a student knows? When should we assess learning, and what are the most important things to assess? This week, we'll engage with the ideas about the nature of assessment and how technology will shape not only the future of assessment, but as a result, the field of education. So, first let's hear from Jody Clark-Madura. She's an assessment researcher who has designed a variety of innovative types of assessments. Today, she's here to teach us the basics on the subject.
Hi, I'm Jody Clark-Madura, and I am a research scientist at the Scheller Teacher Education Program at the Education Arcade at MIT. Advances in technology and measurement are creating new opportunities for assessment that are more reflective of how students learn. Assessments are experiencing a shift from multiple choice type tests to interactive tasks that allow students to demonstrate both the process and the products of learning. This week, we will learn about how innovations in assessment are changing the field and see some exciting examples. So you're probably wondering, what is an assessment? An assessment is a measure of learning, but that's a pretty broad statement. To clarify things, let's break it into three categories: formative assessment, summative assessment, and performance assessment. Assessments become formative assessments when the evidence is used to adapt teaching to meet students' needs. Black and William used the term formative assessment to refer to activities undertaken by teachers and students that provide information to be used as feedback to modify teaching and learning activities. Formative assessments are carried out during the instructional process for the purpose of improving teaching or learning. Formative assessments help students identify what they know or don't know about a concept or idea, for example, their strengths and their weaknesses. They also help teachers identify areas where students are struggling or where they should focus their instruction. The goal of a formative assessment is to monitor student learning, to provide ongoing feedback that can be used by instructors to improve their teaching and by students to improve their learning. So some examples of formative assessment are, while teaching a unit on genetics, a teacher may have her students play a game that has them review genotype and phenotype so she can determine where to focus the curriculum. Or possibly before teaching a unit on fractions, a teacher may have her students play a game where they demonstrate their knowledge of fractions, so she can be sure where to line up the curriculum. Formative assessments tend to be low stakes, meaning they are about improving learning along the way and shouldn't affect students' final grade or larger outcomes. They're usually part of a classroom instruction used to improve teaching. An assessment becomes summative when it is evaluating what students know at the end of a curriculum or term. Summative assessments are used in two different ways, at the classroom level and at the state level. At the classroom level, they can include midterms, final exams, or final papers. And at the state and national level, summative assessments are used to evaluate student learning against some kind of benchmark, such as content standards. This latter use is for accountability programs, to inform policy or to provide information about how well a school is performing. State and national tests such as the New York Regents, the Massachusetts Comprehensive Assessment System, and the National Assessment of Educational Progress are examples of summative assessments that aim to assess students in achievement in specific content areas and are considered high-stakes tests. The last type of assessments that we will talk about are performance assessments. These assessments focus on tasks and how students engage in an activity, rather than responding to questions or items. According to the Standards for Educational and Psychological Testing, performance assessments attempt to emulate the context or conditions in which the intended knowledge or skills are actually applied. In other words, they are more closely aligned with learning in a domain and application of knowledge in that domain, like how a scientist may use science. Performance assessments can be both formative and summative and have been used in both classroom settings and as part of high-stakes test settings. An example of a performance assessment is to have students perform a science experiment to assess their inquiry knowledge. The Virtual Assessment Project is an interesting example of a technology-based performance assessment, and you can check out the links to this exciting work on the course platform. Before I go, I want to tell you about another resource. Researchers have been exploring how to use embedded or stealth assessments, which are assessments that are part of the learning process and integrated seamlessly into a game or activity. Like performance assessments, they can be formative or summative. Val Schutt is a professor at Florida State University who has been writing and thinking about stealth assessment for years. You should check out the links to her exciting work on the course platform. Thanks. I hope you enjoy the rest of the course.